I'll go ahead and call us to order then, special fiscal committee meeting on August 7th, 2026. Hope Scottsburg District 3 and Chair.
More clarity at large.
Is Bob Smith, District 1.
Jeff McKim, City Controller.
Pauline Williamson, Deputy Clerk.
Thank you. So perhaps this meeting can be relatively short today. It's unfortunate that I think last time we talked about this, Councilmember Rollo also wasn't here. Because I was looking forward to being able to have more sense of conversation about some of this, but anyway, our agenda is an update from the controller. Jeff indicated that he had some things that he wanted to share with us this morning. And then just looking at the elected official salary stuff in terms of comparison to the progress, but also this kind of larger question of where we go from here in light of budget stuff and in light of like not being able to decrease salaries once they're increased and what everybody's thoughts are on this entire process right now this year. Oh, Dave entered the waiting list. Maybe he's here. Maybe this is the Dave that we want. Let's.
Well, the real Dave.
That's right, the real Dave Rollo as opposed to like a false Dave Rollo or.
The AI avatar.
That's right, the AI avatar. Dave. Yay!
Well, yeah, I think you get videos too, so.
Hi, Dave. Good morning.
Hey, folks.
I'm so glad that you came with us today. So I was just going over the agenda review and approval. We're gonna have an update from Jeff first. He just wanted a few minutes and then we're gonna talk about elected official salary stuff. And I think last time we talked about this, you weren't able to join us, so I'm really glad that you managed to log on today. So as long as that looks good to everybody. Great. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and take it away with what it is that you wanted to share?
Thank you very much. I have a couple of things and the things keep getting added to the list of things I want to inform you about. The first thing I just wanted to do was really give Councilmember Scottsburg applause for an exceptionally well done and informative report on the lit issues that we're facing. That you did a great job of distilling all the stuff from AIM and Reedy in a way that was, I think, really useful to everybody. So thank you for that. There was one, realized just today, this morning came to me, there was one comment I kind of wanted to add to the entire thing that I know Reedy mentioned, but it's just important to keep in mind as we move forward with all these numbers. The city's ability to raise lit or the amount of money that the city can raise depends on basically a guess of the adjusted gross income of the city. While for the full county, we know exactly what the AGI is. We know, basically to the dollar of what, or very close of what a county rate will bring in. We really do not know what a city rate will bring in. And I think both AIM and Reedy are using different ways of getting the numbers, but ultimately it comes down to just estimating based on census data. So just kind of want to make clear that there's a high uncertainty when we talk about the amount of money that specifically can be raised within the city. And I think the really important thing to mention about that is that it just shows how broken the system is, in that you all are being or possibly be asked to make these decisions with really very based on a new law, a new structure, without the state having released any specific numbers that you can base your decisions on. So I just kind of wanted to throw in that there is a big uncertainty factor there, bigger than for other lit-related issues. The budget process, just kind of wanted to put that in context a little. As you know, the budget book and the raw data set have been released. I encourage you to use the raw data set if you're a fan of Excel and can do pivot tables. It's a really good way of doing of kind of pouring through the budget proposal. If you want additional information from the past added, I can do that. I mean, it may take some effort, but I want to make it useful. The budget presentations have been scheduled for August 17th, 19th, 24th, and 26th. And the reason why I mentioned that is that all of this, the budget proposal, the budget book, the raw data set, and those budget proposal or budget presentations in August are all essentially informal or non-binding pre-work that we do with the budget. They're an opportunity for dialogue between the administration and the council on the budget. And things really become official when the proposed budget is actually officially advertised to the public. That will likely happen in early September. It has to happen at least 10 days before the official budget hearing. When the budget is advertised, it becomes available on the state's gateway system. And like I said, that's kind of the real first formal action of the budget. The official budget hearing for the budget is scheduled for Wednesday, September 23rd at 6:30 p.m. And again, the budget has to be advertised at least 10 days before that. So our advertisement will go out no later than September 13th. And then the final budget adoption is scheduled for Wednesday, October 7th at 6:30 p.m. So that's the budget process. Anybody having any kind of questions or anything you want to know about the process?
Sorry, I just want to find kind of fast. So
Sorry.
when do you have to put the proposal into Gateway?
It would be 10 days, but so September 13th is the latest.
Okay,
It can be done earlier, and it really,
10 days before the official hearing.
yes.
Councilman, or Dave, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So Jeff, you referenced population having a bearing on revenue, and there was an undercount in the last census because of COVID. Are we in any position to request I know census usually occur every 10 years, but I think they can occur more frequently, and I think that we've got a good case rather than waiting another 4 years or whatever for the next census. Is that relevant, or could you address that?
It isn't. First of all, I mean, it is relevant in some ways, and that adjustment has actually already been made. Actually, if you look at the census numbers, they occur in these 4-year blocks. There's a term that's used, vintage, 4-year vintage, and the most recent vintage has actually been updated, even for to essentially accommodate for the fact that it was undercounted during the census. But with respect to local income tax, it's not really based on population, it's based on income. So what really matters is how much income is earned by people who live in the city. And that's an actual figure, not a census count. So that really depends on how much money has been reported to the Indiana Department of Revenue. So that's where those numbers come from. So that's the population is important to a lot of things, but not specifically to this.
Colleen, can you turn him up a little bit? Over here, put it on the house. Dave, I think you just froze.
Yeah. We're not really hearing, you're frozen.
Probably not hearing us.
Yeah, he might not be hearing us either. I have a question
Yeah.
while we're waiting for Dave to unfreeze.
Think of other revenue.
Wait, Dave,
Okay,
you were
I'm good.
frozen there. Dave, you were frozen there. Can you start over?
I'm content. Thank you for answering.
Okay.
Did you get my
Thank
message?
you.
I'm good.
I think this is more of like a statement, but one of the things you mentioned was the informal nature of the budget presentations and about that it's really this partly a dialogue thing. And I just want to really emphasize that to the public too, because last year, if I recall correctly, there was maybe one public comment through the entire budget presentations, and at every single one of these budget presentations, there's an opportunity for the public to comment. And we just got hardly any comments last year at all. And so is there a plan for advertising those in any way to try to get more of the public, or maybe we think about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, the administration has sent out a press release, and the city's budget website does have the dates and the specific departments that are presenting on each day. I mean, I would encourage you as elected officials also to just use your channels to communicate and solicit.
Right. So yeah, I'm not sure how many people are online right now. At this meeting, there's actually 11 participants. Oh, that's a bunch of AI participants too. Not sure how many real people versus note takers, but pass that around, all you folks that are here to, come and look at that and comment as, anybody feels led.
And then again, there are also multiple opportunities, so there are the opportunities in your budget, in the budget presentations. Like the quote unquote informal parts, and then in the official budget hearing, after the budget is advertised, there's additional opportunities for public comment, and then additional opportunities in the budget adoption process.
Great.
So-
Thank you.
so we're good on-
All
Yeah, sorry.
right, yeah,
Couple
keep
more
going.
So in the budget memo, one of the things that I mentioned is that particularly on the revenue side, there's just a lot of things we didn't know or we don't know at the time the memo was written. And so we keep getting additional information, and I just wanted to give you a couple of kind of important points of additional revenue information that we've received since the memo. The first one actually is about lit. And it actually came during the while I was writing the memo. And so I kind of incorporated some really rough estimates into my numbers, but there's still more to come that we don't know. And that, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so this is kind of this is about how the lit numbers are communicated. The first step in the process is that the Indiana State Budget Agency provides the overall lit numbers at countywide level. So, and what that really does is that's kind of your first cut at, well, really, how much did our income grow, and therefore our income taxes grow? So it's a good proxy for how much ultimately the city, the county, the other units are going to get. And that information just came out this last weekend. And so if you actually want to see that information live, you go to the state budget agency website, state and local revenue information, local income information, and there's local income tax data. And there we have 2027 certified calculations. That's the new information that we just got. And this is a great, I love this report. I mean, it's not very long, but what it does is it provides the amount of income tax countywide for every county for each of the different income tax buckets. And so you can actually, so if we go down to Monroe County, you can see how, and I'll bring something up soon, but you can see exactly how much in certified shares, public safety, economic development, correctional facilities, which goes just to the county, property tax relief, and special purpose, which also goes directly to the county. But you can see countywide how much how much revenue is going to be there for 2027. And so,
Jeff, can you share that link in the chat maybe of the Zoom,
yes.
so that then it's, more easily available, I suppose. Or,
Yeah, just this, yes, I have. Yep, now, that's.
or I don't know if there's like a better way to do that.
It keeps giving me the local up.
Okay. If maybe we could just share those as like supplementary material and, yeah,
Yeah,
because the public might be interested in looking at that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's easier to have a link available somewhere to this information. All right, yeah, so we can talk about that after.
okay. And then I just wanted to show you what that means overall. And essentially, if we compare it to the 2026 numbers, we get a 5.38% increase in local income tax. So that's a decent number. It's not,
For the city.
that's county as a whole. Don't know the city yet. Yeah, that's the county as a whole. We know that we brought in 5.38% more in local income tax that'll be distributed in 2027 from 2026. And you know, if you look at the, I don't have those numbers right up here, but when they came out, I looked at them compared to other counties, and we're kind of in the middle. So there are counties that were much lower, than there are counties like, I think Hamilton County would have a 15% increase. Which probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody, but I mean, I would say that it's relatively good news. In the past, in 2026, the city received 37.55% of the certified shares, 41.88% of the public safety, and 56.66% of economic development. And so I used those same percentages, and then I discounted them by 25% just to be conservative in the estimates that I put in the budget. But but the idea is, this is what we know now, and we just learned. Later in the month, we will receive the first distribution and it won't come from the state budget agency, it comes from the Department of Local Government and Finance, and it will show it'll show the actual estimated distributions to each tax unit, like each township, to each city, the county, and so on. So, and then there's a third, and then there's kind of a final estimate that we'll receive later. So that's, right now, we know countywide, we don't know exactly with the city, but based on past estimates.
So is this kind of the process that happens every year in terms of when you create the budget for the next year, you're estimating how much lit you're gonna get, and so then there's like. And so that could also then, I feel like last year I remember there being some discrepancies between the budget book and then the actual.
Oh, there will
And
be.
it got very pointed out, and so that would be one of the reasons for some of those discrepancies, is this sort of late breaking.
Yeah, there's a number of things, and I tried to say that, caveated that at the very beginning of the memo. The revenues are gonna change, they're gonna change throughout the process as we learn new information.
Okay.
That,
And then the estimates though that you guys are doing are based on pretty conservative revenues.
overall,
Yeah,
I mean, I would say
Like,
try to be accurate, we try to be accurate.
right, but accurate, conservative as opposed to accurate, like hopeful.
We're definitely not.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just better, in my opinion, it's better to like guess low for like expenditure, like for revenues. As opposed to
Yeah.
high, so that then there's,
Either you're accurate or you're not accurate, but
yeah.
yeah, some of that is projecting, so.
Yeah, that's why I used the 25% discount
Okay.
factor in case
Yeah.
we wind up, I mean, we know what the overall is, but in case the county winds up with more. You know, a higher percentage of that growth than we do.
So as we move from the budget presentations to council to the official numbers, I think part of the problem last year is that there wasn't enough explanation of changes, so just to flag that for you, if you could just be sure to explain what changes took place and why.
Okay, so yeah, there definitely will be on the revenue side. Will be changes. Okay, and then, so that's the local income tax. Let's see, what's next?
You do have a lot of things.
But it's all changes that happen in revenue, so it's all
Yeah.
exactly relevant to
Yeah,
this
For
discussion.
sure.
You already know, and this is the kind of the good news and bad news of property tax. You already know about the 6% maximum levy growth quotient. That's the property tax increase we get each year. And that's based on the 6-year non-farm income growth moving average. And it is so 6, and it has been statutorily capped to 4% up until this year. That statute expired. So it now reverts to kind of what it actually is based on income growth, and that's 6%. So that's the good news. Now, the bad news is that just yesterday, 2 days ago, we received the net assessed value numbers for the property tax base that property tax is based on. And what we're seeing now, and I've got those numbers up on the screen, that we're seeing for Bloomington. You remember Bloomington is made up of 4 taxing districts: Bloomington Township, Perry Township, Van Buren Township, and Richland Township. The portions of each of those townships that are within the city limits. And that the assessed value went down by 142 million from 2026 to 2027. So yeah, that's a lot of money. Now, why did it go down? It went, this is a direct impact of SEA 1. And it went down mainly because of the additional exemption or deductions given to owners of rental properties. So, one of the big SEA 1 kind of innovations was to, in the past, almost all of the property tax deductions and exemptions have been only to homesteads. But with SEA one, some of those deductions are now given to rental owners as well. And so and this particularly disproportionately affects Bloomington because we have so many, about 50% of our net assessed value in the city is rental company. So that means that this SEA one affects Bloomington disproportionately. And so we've got in the exemptions for rental housing phases in over time. It was 6% in 2026, 12% in 2027, and that's the big impact that we're seeing this year. That's going to continue to go up 19%, 25, 30, and 33, 24. So we're going to continue to see the net assessed value get hit because of these deductions given to owners of rental properties. Yeah,
I want you to say that just a second again for those in the room and anybody who might watch this afterwards, that huge deductions just went to owners of rental properties. And that's all rental properties, doesn't matter how big or small the property is.
right. These are essentially what you'll hear Reedy refer to them as 2% properties. They're the properties that are subject to the 2% tax cap. They are residential but not homestead properties. So yes, that is big apartments, small apartments, say individually owned rental houses. But this tax break to owners of these rental properties is a major reason why we're seeing such a large decrease in net assessed value. It looks like Councilmember Rallo has a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you. That's harrowing. I wonder to what extent, Jeff, short-term rentals play a part. So the estimate is about 1,000 homes have been converted to short-term rentals in the past years. That has to equal quite a lot of net assessed value, does it not? And is there any estimate of that effect specific to short-term rentals, Airbnbs, so forth?
I've not heard, but I mean, that's a reasonable calculation to do. I think that would probably rely on information from the assessor's office. And I don't know to what degree that they collect information, whether there's anything specific in any database about short-term rentals versus other rentals. They are definitely 2% rather than 1%. They're not homesteads, so they definitely would have an effect on this. But yeah, we would have to somehow marry a list of short-term rentals with the information from the auditor and assessor's office. But that's certainly something interesting and worth calculating.
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Okay, so this is kind of the last one. This is also a follow-on to the issue that I just talked about with the net assessed value and this literally happened this morning. So as I was reading and looking at websites, I realized that this new information, which is the circuit breaker estimates for 2027, just came out this morning. And so I haven't had a chance to do any analysis, but I did want to just kind of give you the top line number, and I've got it projected up on the screen here. So what we're seeing is, and
Can you make it
can
bigger?
I make it bigger? How's that?
That's much better.
Okay. And so the key piece of information here is the 2027 estimate from the DLGF. Again, this is just an estimate, but this is the number that ultimately will go into the advertised budget. And what we're seeing is a hit of 1.3 million from the circuit breaker. This is the tax cap. So this is an increase of 7%. Or if you look at those numbers there, almost $1 million in property tax loss to the city from the circuit breakers compared to 2026. Now you'll see that the big SEA one hit is this year. We've already kind of digested part of the largest impact of SEA one, where we saw a circuit breaker increase of 626% from of 171,000 to 1.2 million. But again, as we see this assessed value decrease, and it's all related, because when net assessed value decreases, property tax rates increase for the same amount of money. When property tax rates increase, then circuit breaker or tax caps loss increases. So that's the kind of chain of causality here. And so that's what we're seeing. Again, late breaking news, none of it good. And the lit information is good, but the property tax information is bad. And this is a direct result of, this is not local economy. This is a direct result of SE1 policy choices. So that's all I have. And I know it was a little longer than that.
I think that that's okay.
And I'll continue to bring to you any new information that we receive, so that, by the time we actually start talking about the budget, we're kind of working with the most recent and most accurate information.
If you could kind of assemble these things into a 1 or 2 page, whatever, and add it into the fiscal committee folder, the shared one, so then we can post that as a packet addendum
I can do
to
that.
this meeting.
You saw that I kind of had some notes.
Yeah, I saw that, so I was kind of like,
Copy and
oh,
paste.
hopefully it'll be easy for him to just put that in a, quick little 1-pager, just so that we can have those links, and have them made publicly available as well.
Will do.
Any other questions or comments for the controller? Okay, let's move on to review of the compensation framework and the elected official salary stuff. And now I'm going to work on sharing my screen, hopefully. Find the thing that I want to share first. So last time we talked about this, I hope it's this one. I hope that it's right. Perfect. Okay, so last time we talked about this, as Dave, I don't think that you were here, and so Isabel and Matt and I discussed the updated kind of guiding principles that they had worked on modifying. And so the first thing I wanted to do was kind of review this piece of and my recollection at the time was that I thought that this was good, and you guys obviously created it and you thought that it was good, and I don't remember there being things that we specifically thought about changing. So Dave, I'm especially interested in your feedback on these updated guiding principles. So values to guide how we make decisions, accessibility to public service. So compensation makes the office attainable for community members. There's equitable pay according to respective levels of responsibility relative to other Bloomington elected officials and departmental leadership. Quality or community service enables elected officials to meaningfully engage and serve the community. Informed decisions allows us to make informed decisions. Oh wait, those were the original ones. And then transparent and documented process. And so that got shifted to 3 values: accessibility of public service, quality community service, and equitable pay. And 2 processes: informed decisions about the elected official compensation, and then transparency and consistency of process. So now that we all remember this, are there updated comments about it? And Dave, you unmuted, so why don't you go first?
I'm in agreement.
That the new version looks good.
Yes.
Great. And we decided that last time.
Do we vote?
We could,
Sure.
so I will take a motion then.
I move that we approve the new guiding principles for setting elected official salaries.
Is there a second? Great. There's motion and a second to approve this new text. And actually, should we approve it or should we recommend it to the full council for approval? Or should we?
I don't think the full council ever voted on.
No, they
the
didn't.
guiding principles.
No,
Yeah.
no, they didn't.
Yeah,
All right,
it's,
I guess we
Careful.
did.
we could recommend it for approval by the council. Also, the idea is it's this body's guiding principles to make a recommendation on the actual figures, that's what we don't really need.
and it could also maybe go along with the rest of, because if we recall correctly, there's like additional guidance on how to actually set this, and so these are just the guiding principles. So I think that this motion should stand, and then maybe we should bring the whole package to the council for whole approval. Does that work? All right, let's vote. Isabel,
Yes,
Matt,
Yes,
Dave,
Yes,
and I'll vote yes too. Wonderful. Okay. Got them. The next piece of this was the elected official was the comparisons. And so actually, this is where I'm gonna stop the share and I'm gonna start a different share. Okay. All right, so this was where Dave and I had sat down and we had kind of trimmed down the list of salaries to, this is actually what I want. To just a few cities, that instead of taking all of the second class cities in Indiana, we had specifically picked out ones that were maybe more comparison value to Bloomington. And then we had also collected some other potential comparison entities that were outside of Monroe County. And or outside of Indiana. And other, like Ellisville is on here at the town council, so they're a little bit different, like a different body. And the Indiana state representatives and senators, and so I did a little bit of that and updated the sheet. Dave, do you have any updates that just haven't gone onto the sheet yet?
yes, I completed, my assignment for mayor and council, on the Google Doc,
Okay, is that updated on the Google Doc now?
should be.
Okay, oh, are all of these numbers updated then here?
Yes,
Oh, excellent, but you didn't update the sources?
I did not. No,
Okay, all right, that's
I-
why I was confused.
but I
Perfect.
did make a number of calls to verify that the amounts.
Okay, so I can safely delete everything from this master list from the purple ones?
Yeah,
Great. And did you put any notes in here about any of them, or can I delete the notes too?
I did not,
Okay.
and I did not complete the number of meetings, et cetera. Still have to do that.
Okay, so we've still got a little bit more work to do on this sheet, but this at least. Is a little bit updated, and so you can see, like, I sent out some emails, I've got some outstanding things. These sources are not valid on the green ones unless these numbers have also been filled in. Okay, so. And then the rest of this document, which is also partially filled in, is the number of regular meetings per year, and I tried to average the last 3 years. The number of council committees, the number of other appointments, and then just dividing pay by meeting. And then pay by meeting plus other commitments. And this is where I would say, like, any kind of analysis gets a little bit dubious, so we can absolutely have a discussion of like how we wanna analyze this stuff. And what we wanna really do with this information and whether or not, like, what the relevance is. I suppose you could say, in terms of things like council committees and other appointments, because there's nothing in here about how frequently council committees meet or how long they meet for, and similarly with other appointments, you know, like, are the other appointments monthly, are they, you know, so dividing it essentially, adds one meeting per year, I think. So I'm not sure how relevant that is, and I would take feedback on that. And then, so the purple stuff from Dave is not in your packet of information, it is just up on the screen at this point. And once again, which is kind of the way it was in 2024, there is quite a variation here in council member pay. It looks like the low right now is Muncie at 14,000. Oh no, the low is Greenwood at 12,000. And then the high, at least that has been recorded, is that 28,000 in Lafayette. It looks like. And Dave, do you have the information about number of meetings and you just haven't added it in yet, or do you not have that information? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I did not add it in yet. I've got a couple, but I don't
Okay.
have accessible at this moment.
Okay, excellent,
in
that's
some of
fine.
So I need to, yeah, sorry about that. Meant to
Oh,
do it this
no, that's
morning,
fine.
but I ran out of time.
Yeah, no worries.
And by the way, the West Lafayette number is tentative. They just passed an ordinance last week, but it hasn't come into effect yet.
Okay, so they've passed one for increases for next year for 2027?
Yeah, they just did their salary ordinances. They just revised them.
Okay. Great, I'll add that in as a note. So that would be interesting to know, especially because they are amongst the lowest. Whether they are changing that.
So, sorry,
No, go for it.
so Dave, is the 16,209 for West Lafayette, is that for 2026 or 2027?
2027.
Wow,
Oh, wait, the 16,000 is 2027 is next year for West Lafayette?
They just passed the ordinance literally a week ago.
Right,
I believe it's effective next year. I don't think it's
Okay.
effective this year. I think it's because they're just setting their salaries for next year, as I believe.
all right. So that's their 27 number, all right. One of the things that I find interesting is that there were a couple of clerk salaries up here that I think have been increased in Evansville and Fort Wayne, but, it looks like some of the other ones have not been increased. And of course, like, salaries are all over the place. And I don't know if we wanna do any kind of comparison based on population, cause that can certainly go into this chart. I don't know at this point how useful it is to do this comparison versus how much we need to just sort of assess. I mean, our controller just gave us, I would say, more bad news than good news, about future revenues, so what do y'all wanna do?
well, I think this doesn't directly answer your question, but just to give feedback on this chart. I think the number of council committees, the number of other appointments, and the pay per meeting plus other appointments is not, doesn't add anything. Like, maybe maybe the number of regular meetings is relevant. I wouldn't even do the pay per meet, I just don't think those other things can be compared as apples to apples. Because we don't, like you said, we don't know these other appointments, if it's just, twice a year, or if it's twice a week, we don't know what the duties
Gives like
entail.
a false sense of accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. False position.
And I'm curious, for Bloomington, number of regular meetings per year, 39,
That was the average of the last 3 years.
does
And
that
that's-
include the budget hearings? 'Cause
Yeah,
That's a lot.
That included, all of, I'll say, the regularly scheduled full council meetings. So it was like, so our regular sessions, our special sessions, like what we approved in like November or December,
Okay,
like,
because you said regular meetings, so I
Yeah.
thought it meant regular sessions, which would have been good.
right, no, like the things that are scheduled at the beginning of the year that we put on our calendars that we expect that we're going to actually have. So it doesn't include anything that might kind of come up as an emergency session or an executive session, or, so like we had an executive session this week, it wouldn't have included that.
So from the other cities also, it was like their annual count.
That's what I asked them for, yes.
Man, what's Fort Wayne? Well, it's only 4 more than us, I guess.
Yeah, it's only 4 more than us. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
And so some of the other ones like specifically said, like Evansville, for example, they meet twice a month. And with no break, I guess they're really reliable about it. But then when I clarified, I also wanted things like the budget hearings, they said, oh, add 3 to that then. I was like, okay. And that's, apparently they only have 3 budget related sessions, and I didn't ask things like legislation or, any of those sorts of expectations, like how much in the weeds is it really worth getting? Probably not a ton. Dave,
Yeah, just, Hopi, since you mentioned it, I do think population is relevant. I mean, there are a lot of facets to determining salary in terms of responsibility, such as number of meetings, committees, and so forth. But population, I mean, it really obviously is going to affect the number of constituents that, and constituent input that you're going to hear as a representative. And I think it's also a good proxy for, economic activity and development proposals and things like that, the population number. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
okay, so maybe doing some sort of calculation based on population.
Should probably factor into some degree. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I think, I appreciate having the data. I think it's difficult to parse, and my broader concern has always been that there are systemic inequities that affect not only Bloomington, but other places too. And so simply looking to a bunch of systemic inequities to validate our own perpetuation of the same is not like a sound approach. I don't mind it as a contextual, piece of information to look at. I think it does help when we add some of these details, population, number of meetings, et cetera, to better understand that context. What I've always found relatively compelling as a basic way to look at things is the ratio of a full-time mayor to a part-time legislator, salary as well. And just doing some like basic searching for like state legislatures as an example, which also vary widely, right? Some have very short sessions and alternates have very long sessions. A 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio from the executive, the governor, to state legislators is pretty typical. Legislators' base salary is usually lower, but most states have per diem things around the number of days they're in session, things like that. And when it's all said and done, the typical range across the country seems to be about 3 to 1 or 4 to 1 for governors to state legislators. That's a ratio that we talked about in the context of Bloomington, where based on the input from current 9 council members about not just their own service, but what they believe it takes to provide quality service. As an elected official, as an elected council member in Bloomington, I think the estimate was 12 or 14 hours, something like that was the average, answer. That's, that has limitations too. A number I feel very comfortable with as conservative is, quarter time, essentially. Quarter time service, and if the mayor's full-time service, that's a ratio of 4 to 1. Of course, I know there's other ways to think about this, including the fact that there's 9 city council members, so when you think about it in the same way, on and on and on, we always are always thinking about this. I think that's a reasonable ratio, and I think analyzing the ratios for these other cities can also be helpful. There's some that are like wildly out of whack, in a sense, like, I think, the Greenwood ratio is like pretty extreme, but I think their council is also like a pretty lean body that doesn't do a lot. I've talked to council members there before, their meetings are short, they don't do, they have no committees, they only have regular sessions, right? They just, really move through business in a highly deferential way to the executive. That's just not how things are or have been for a long time in Bloomington. Nor how I think our residents generally want things to be. So, I guess my broader point here is that the values and process we updated are all well and good. There's enough wiggle room in them for any of us to read pretty much any range of answers we want to into it. So like the values are great. It at least gives us some basis to explain how we're thinking about this decision. But it doesn't give us in a very objective way to arrive at a number. Instead, it's highly subjective. And I still find it feeling something basic like relation, setting aside the clerk salary for this purpose, but set the relation between mayoral salaries and council salaries as a ratio. And I wonder if adding, at least, so that's just how I'm thinking about it, but also if I wonder if adding that ratio to the columns of, the columns that by city that present this data would be another interesting thing to look at. And consider how, where the cities are, but again, with the caveat that I don't think that all the other city plans all that useful.
Yeah, I mean, I do have these percentages over here that I
Okay.
filled in.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure.
That
whether
works,
we
yeah.
wanted to do
So
that.
yeah, you got that.
And
That's
so,
okay.
yeah,
That's my long-winded endorsement of doing that, yes.
okay, great, I can do that. Dave?
Yes, I think it's an interesting proposal. I'd like to think about that in terms of ratio, because that would be then predictable, and maybe it would be a good check relative to the mayor's salary and the council salary too. Unless of course there's collusion between the two bodies, but generally speaking, I think that does make sense to have a ratio kind of approach. And I just wanted to note that it looks like, I think Terre Haute and Hammond are about 4 to 1 in terms of the ratio, if I'm not mistaken, between the mayor and the council. So, there are examples. I mean, I'm not saying that they're explicitly, aiming for that, but it just kind of falls within that range. That's all. Thanks.
And what about the clerks?
Yeah, Dave, did you just not get to putting the clerk salary for these other places on there, on the chart yet? And you got
Yeah,
that?
I haven't, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm
Well,
tardy.
okay, that's all right. We'll get this updated.
I'll just briefly follow up, Mark, I didn't really mention it. I don't tend to think of the clerk salary in the same way with respect to a ratio to the others. I tended to think about it more like, I think about the head of the council, office, which is running a city department, even in a small one, we have a number of small city departments. So I think there are limits to that approach as well, but, and yeah, there was an analogy, but I tend to skew more in that direction than a ratio to other relatives.
Great. I want to note that the time is 9:22, and I want to have public comment on this, and Porter Bolden also walked in the middle of it, and I want to give her an opportunity at all to say anything about salary stuff. If you want a couple minutes.
Just really quickly, because I was coming up to whisper in Colleen's ear and
Yeah,
kind of
sorry.
stayed and listened a bit, so sorry, I'm glad I did, because I actually had questions and she had the answers on our spreadsheets. When I gave you guys salary information, what, 2-3
Yeah.
years ago?
Cheers.
One of the concerns that was expressed by both the administration and a few council members, I think actually Councilmember Rowland, you were one of them. You wanted to actually have source materials, and you wanted them verified, so an email from a clerk probably would suffice. My solution was to actually provide you guys with the salary ordinances for those years. So I would strongly suggest if you guys are going back to the council, you actually pull the 2026 salary ordinances, or if you would like, we can provide them to you because we do have them. And for all the second class cities. So some of the numbers that you have on your chart, just by eyeballing it, look incorrect. Or they may have additional information that wasn't accounted for in a phone call and or an email. So, I would just, that is my advice, take it however you wish. Councilmember Rallo, I think at one point you had talked about Monroe County salaries versus elected official salaries as well. So that may be something you want to look at. Evansville. Evansville. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there are lots of bills in the state, so, not to discount or discredit that, but, that would be something that you all might want to consider kind of incorporating, because you're talking about comparisons of cities, and I know they are a town, but that may have some bearing on what you guys are looking at. And then,
We have it on.
score.
I didn't, I haven't had a chance to check in with Ellisville yet, but I got the Monroe County ones on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we do, Councilmember Burrell and I, when we sat down
talked about it
a
already.
while ago, talked about the other comparison cities outside, and we just haven't had time to look at that.
Score,
So
you're already
morning,
thinking the
because
same way.
it's already 9:24.
Okay, and
so,
so
yeah.
the last thing, oops, I missed my train of thought there. Oh, yes. I appreciate you guys looking at this, and I'm assuming you're talking framework and all that other stuff again. But, just to be very, very clear, from my perspective for the office of the city clerk, I think the COLA increase along the lines of the rest of the state and civil city staff is fine. I do think that you guys should explore this in more depth leading into the next city clerk, the next mayor, the next council, so that it's not immediately set in, we're raising our own salaries, but we're looking ahead for the future.
Okay.
That may be. As long as the controller doesn't get mad at me for saying that.
All right, thank you.
Anything else with numbers?
No, I mean, I think that most of this meeting, I didn't invite you, we talked about this a little bit, and I didn't specifically say like, hey, come to this one, because I figured that we would mostly be talking about council salaries in terms of some of the stuff that we've talked about before, but, probably in September, we'll have a conversation that we'll want to invite Mayor to as well, in terms of giving feedback on maybe even October, honestly. It's hard to say, we'll have to chat about that. So, all right, I want to make sure to get public comments about this, because I said that we would have public comment here, so. There are no members of the public in the room. If there's any members of the public on Zoom, if you could please raise your hand using the raised hand feature. I'll go ahead and stop the screen share. And I see KRKCP has raised their hand, and I'll go ahead and set my timer for about 3 minutes. And
Can you hear me?
yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Kevin Keogh. First, I want to acknowledge Jeff. He's been accessible and response, and that's greatly appreciated. The budget book, release date 1/26. This is my enumeration so far I'm searching for a methodology. This is my starting point. But my first objective was to enumerate the general fund comparison on page 12 and trace it to the ACFR. Initial observation was that revenue and expenditures 2023-2024 did not match. I completed a worksheet, sent it to Jeff, City Controller. Answer, the comparison combines the general fund, the rainy day fund, and the payroll clearing account fund. This shows the nuance of some of these descriptors. The more disclosures made, the better it is for the public. I just want to point that. But the finding I came away with is I need to use the AFR reports, not the ACFR. I found the AFR reports are static cash basis reports as of 2/28 for the prior fiscal year. They do not change. There's no further adjustments made. If a correction is needed, a completely new AFR is submitted and dated. This is a significant finding. It needs to be expanded, and I need to look into it more, but it really gets to the quality, integrity, and accuracy and the completeness, but it's not at this time. Finding two was the fund numbers changed in the 2025 AFR. I have no idea of the significance of this. Again, maybe at a later time we can discuss or whatever. The payroll count, though, I think it's count 904. It had a change in accounting principle for fiscal years 2023 and 24. I get words further enumeration at a later time. Brings up the issue of fund transfers and inflating revenues and expenses. I think this is very significant and really just warrants some discussion. The budget book, the Appendix A, does not include the beginning or the ending fund balance, which should equal the cash and investments. It's disclosed in the AFR. I think this is significant. I think it's good information. I think it'd be, if you're going to include, and which the appendix is quite, lengthy, that would be some information that the public, I think the public would find important. Also, this started a new objective because I started looking at that appendix and I compared it to the AFR, listing of fund balances and funds. I seems to be there's some missing funds in the appendix. I've started preparing a list. I'm not clear on why certain funds are not included in that appendix, and I really can't determine the significance, but I think it warrants some further enumeration. I need to know a little bit more. I think the public would, why some funds that are listed at AFR aren't listed in that appendix. And I just to get overall, just to figure out how all these funds work. I've seen in other municipalities where they have a flow chart and they talk about the funds and how the funds interact and the significance, and I've had plenty of experience with fund accounting, and I know the importance of restricted funds and unrestricted and always abiding.
Mr. Keo, that was 3 minutes.
All right, that's all I get.
Yeah,
but there's a lot here. I just want to
Um,
encourage, the public to look at this, but there's a lot here and it's not easy to digest all this.
Yes.
But
yes,
that's just to
there is
give you
a
an
lot
idea
there.
of how difficult it is. Anyway, I know I gotta shut up now.
Thank you. If you have other comments about that kind of specificity, I'm sure that those things in writing would be easiest for the controller to look at. So yeah, are there other public comments? I didn't see anybody else's hand raised. And once going twice, we're gone. Okay, so coming back to the meeting, we talked a little bit about where we go from here. And it is 9:31, so I want to adjourn us. We do not have another fiscal committee meeting until September. And so we'll, in terms of our rotation, we would expect to be hearing something from the administration on the board. We'll have to talk about whether that makes the most sense because we'll be coming right off of the budget presentations at that time. And so we'll have to decide, and I would welcome feedback from my colleagues about whether there's something that you would appreciate hearing from the administration, maybe specifically related to the budget presentations and any of those concerns at the beginning of September. Other than that, I think that it could potentially be useful to continue talking about elected salary stuff. And to go back again to that original framework, because some of the things in terms of the comparison cities versus the percentages of or like the ratios. That kind of reminds me of some of the conversations that we had the first time around this, around the basis of salary setting and what kind of basis are we gonna use? And so, might be worth kind of revisiting exactly the original form, the whole thing. And going down the next step of that and doing that sooner rather than later might be useful.
Well, it might be a good opportunity since we will be coming out of the budget hearings to give some feedback on the presentation, both in the budget book and during the hearings, and what
Yeah.
worked well and what maybe could be adjusted.
That is true too. So yeah, I guess that's also good feedback. So we will have to figure that out, and I'll put some notes on September for, so elected salaries, budget presentation feedback. Or, just kind of delving deeper into specific budget, concerns / issues. Any other thoughts at the top of anybody's brain about that September 4th meeting? All right, and then similarly, you know, in this like calendar memo at the end, you know, I'm trying to collect those dates so that then we can know when to do things, and so I do have, the budget hearings on there and the introduction and then adoption of budget legislation and then carrying into next week. We don't have time for this right now. But my little paragraph at the bottom, we've discussed having some kind of a budget fair to present financial data to the public in more accessible ways. We could maybe be thinking about that as we go through these budget hearings, and that would be excellent. So any other last comments?
I love the idea of budget fair.
Yeah, I mean, I love it too, and I think that we just have to figure out the details of when it would make sense to do it and how it could be done. So, we good?
I mean, I think we do need to touch base again on outcome-based budgeting.
Yes. Yes, and that might actually,
I had an idea about that, we were talking about it earlier in the year, you know, I'm especially interested in this, and like a framework for like what it would actually entail to do that. It would probably take multiple years to implement changes, to actually establish shared outcomes in many areas where we don't have them currently. Right, along with a kind of uniform approach to setting metrics that are actually, consistently measurable vis-a-vis a budget, you know, or related reporting. It's a lot for any, for staff to take on, it's a lot for, you know, the committee to take on. I wonder about a O'Neill graduate student capstone class. It seems like a really good project actually for the public affairs folks. So we've had capstones, most recently looking at, you know, decarbonization efforts with the Commission on Sustainability leading one. There have been other capstones that work with the city before, and that could be, well, it's something to consider, to where to help get capacity on a project like this.
great. Other mentions, beach meetings, things that we forgot about. I was about to adjourn us, and Isabel started talking, so now we're adjourned.